Alright, this is the rise of industrialization. We've now talked about how we've moved from an agrarian society, farmers, into the industrial age. Now we have to talk about all the other things that happen. This is chapter 6 in your book. So first video, new ideas with old philosophies. Alright? I have to go way back and set something up for you. A really old man, at this time anyway, Adam Smith had written a book called The Wealth of Nations. What on earth is he talking about wealth of nations? He is promoting the idea of capitalism. That means I strive as an industrialist to make as much money as possible without any interference from the government whatsoever. Now, this is also based off the idea that we're going to make as much money and brand names and all these things that we come to love. Now, capitalism does come in conflict, especially when we talk about socialism and Cold War and all those different things, right? Now, a leadership style for our government at this time, and this falls under a conservative, is called laissez-faire. Laissez-faire loosely translates to hands off. You, the government, allow me, the producer, to make capital for you to become big. And you keep your hands out of my business. That's laissez-faire. Now, what happens with that is there are some unwarranted side effects. And we're going to see those unwarranted side effects here in a second. All right. So, another key component of making America a big nation, a big powerful nation, was something called the Bessemer process. Now, Bessemer process is going to take the iron ore that you get out of the ground, melt it up, melt it down. Can't melt something up, that'd be kind of weird, right? Melt it down and turn it into steel. The steel can then be manipulated by molds to build these high skyscrapers and big industrial villages and things like that. So the Bessemer process is responsible for building up large cities, as well as factories and mass-producing railroad lines and all these things. So without this, things wouldn't have happened, right? Now, the next man we need to make is Edwin Drake. Edwin Drake is kind of responsible for the idea of using gas as a fuel. He got the idea from a Canadian, and they had used kerosene, which if you've ever been camping, kerosene is a clear liquid that can be used to heat things. And he said, well, let's take oil, strip it down, refine it, much like kerosene is refined, and we can use it to power the trains and all these different things. So, we're now going to change and go from there, okay? Now, the railroads decided we need to go to standard gauge. Now, standard gauge means that all the railroad lines are the same size. Otherwise, you have to do all these little split screens and get it there, and that could potentially be a problem, especially going from like a 6-track to an 8-track, and you don't think about it, it's going to derail the train. So, it's get everybody organized. Also, we have the creation of standard time zones. And there are 4 time zones in the United States: Pacific, Mountain, you live in the Central, and Eastern. If you ever watch TV, it might say EST, or CST, or PST. That stands for Eastern Standard Time, Central Standard Time, Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time. And so why did they do that? It's basically because if I make something in the West and send it to the East, I can tell you exactly when it's going to be there. Now, one of these big major inventors we have here is Thomas Edison. Now, Thomas Edison was responsible for a massive number of things. He had massive numbers of patents or ideas. But one of the more notable ones is the one I showed you here. It's an X-ray machine, and it could have saved the president's life. But the president said, I'm not getting that cockamamie thing. What are you thinking? But enough about that. Edison is responsible for the incandescent light bulb. Now, why is that important? Electricity. So the Wizard of Menlo Park, as he was called, allowed factories to run off electricity, and now they can be built anywhere in this country. Before, you had to be around some type of source of water or wind or something like that. Now, build them anywhere. Work them at night. Let's go. And so if you work them at night, you can have 2 shifts. You can make more products. Is this making sense? It should. Yes. Okay. Now, Alexander Graham Bell created the telephone. He stole it. Antonio Meucci, and there he is, was the real inventor of the telephone. Um, Now, how did this work? Alexander Graham Bell actually worked in the same lab with Meucci, stole some of the prototypes, and then marketed it himself. Why? Meucci was kind of broke. Graham Bell had some money, and so we say that he stole, or he was the inventor of the telephone. Um, Regardless, the telephone is going to move into the age of replacing the telegraph. Now, the telegraph was great, but you had to get it somewhere, Pony Express, etc. The telephone, we can wire people together and you can hear them directly. And so this is a great invention moving on. As well, we have the invention of the typewriter by Christopher Sholes and a few other things. Now, the last thing to make America really start booming is the Texas oil boom. And so using the idea of Edwin Drake that you can refine this and make crude oil, as it's called when it comes out of the ground, into some type of fuel, people moved to Texas and started setting up these oil rigs, or oil booms as they're called, and they kind of have that weird balancy looking thing if you've ever seen them in a field. And so people moved to Texas, and so now Texas is going to be replaced with cattle drive with oil fields. And many numerous people made money off these oil fields. The Bush family has a lot of oil fields here, as well as Lyndon Baines Johnson, some other people as well. But that's the first one about industrialization. There you go.